One last day of practice before the finals tip for real on Thursday night. Steph Curry and the Dubs have made the finals a regular part of their late spring schedule, while Kawhi Leonard is back at the finals for the third time, but for the first time wearing a Toronto uniform. Welcome in, everybody, to our NBA Finals preview show presented by YouTube TV. Good to have you with us from Toronto. I'm Matt Weiner, 3D. Dennis Scott played in the NBA Finals, and, of course, the Hall of Famer Grant Hill. Got a different feel here with the Finals, leaving the United States, coming to Canada for the very first time.
Very first time, Matt, and getting to know Masai Ujiri last few years and understanding how he put this team together, knowing this country has fallen in love with basketball, and now they're at their first finals. I'm super excited for this whole country.
I'm excited, too. This franchise, this organization come up short a few times in the last few years in the Eastern Conference Finals. Finally here in the finals with Kawhi Leonard, who's playing fantastic basketball. Exciting times for the NBA, but most importantly for this organization, the Toronto Raptors.
Well, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention who's not here, and that's LeBron James.
What?
This is the first time since 2010 that James has not been part of an NBA Finals. And Masai Ujiri took advantage last summer, a couple of bold moves, a coaching change to bring in Nick Nurse, and of course the acquisition of Kawhi Leonard, who has led the way on both ends, leading all scorers in total points this postseason while playing his signature stifling defense. He has something Steph Curry does not, a Finals MVP, but Curry played like one in the Western Conference Finals. Now, after 4 years against LeBron and the Cavs, the Dubs get a new Finals opponent.
It's a different vibe. It's a different feeling. It's exciting. It's great for the game. Different for us, obviously, having been in Cleveland 4 straight years. But this is more the rule. You know, that was the exception. I mean, you're not supposed to go to the finals 4 straight years, and you're definitely not, if you're lucky enough to do that, you're not supposed to play the same team 4 straight years. So that was really an oddity. This is more what the finals normally feel like, where you're going against a team you frankly don't know that well, and that you haven't seen that often over the previous few years.
You know, I was young, my first finals, 20, probably second year in the league, and you know, not knowing really what to expect, but you know, after that, going into my second one, you know, you pretty much know what to expect. And I mean, we're playing the same team, but it's still the same. It's the same basketball game. You know, it's 5-on-5. You know, it's still 2 hoops. You know, so you just got to go out there and play hard and live with the results.
You kind of lock in on what that experience is going to be like. 1, starting on the road in the finals. 2, playing against a different team other than Cleveland, because Cleveland and the finals are pretty synonymous for us with our experience. But I would say just this entire year has been kind of wild for us, chasing the same goal but doing it with a lot of noise around us, and to be able to start here in Toronto against a different opponent in our 5th straight finals creates a great edge for us, and I like the energy that we're coming in with for Game 1.
Steph and the Champs became the first team since the 60s-era Celtics to reach 5 straight finals. They can also score the first three-peat since the Lakers at the turn of the century. But this is a different group that has faced different challenges. We'll talk about some of their injury issues in just a moment. But in terms of what Steve Kerr has had to do, 8 different starting lineups in the postseason already, it's been a little different challenge. How does this Warriors team, in your mind, stack up to the ones we've seen win 3 out of 4 already?
Yeah, Matt, for Steve Kerr, it's all about adapting and adjusting. And this Warriors team, kind of going back to that 2015 team without Kevin Durant, because of his injury, having to, facilitate, pass, ball movement, player movement. That's their recipe of success, and they've been dangerous at it here in these last 5.5 games since Durant went down. Right now, they have the fewest seconds per touch and dribble per touch of any team in the postseason, and they're assisting on 67% of their shots. So their ball movement, player movement, their shooting, their unselfishness, so hard to defend, going to put a lot of pressure on that Raptors defense.
Matt and Grant, I look at this team as I don't think we give them enough credit for being so unselfish. So when you go back to the first championship, you look at Mo Spates, you look at Barbosa, you look at Harrison Barnes, and now they have a new group of role players, others that step up and make shots. So you look at Quinn Cook, you look at Jerebko, and you look at Alfonso McKinney, people are like, who are these guys?
Right.
So it lets me know that Steph Curry, KD, Steve Kerr, they're great leaders to bring in complementary players and make them look like great players. So when Alfonso McKinney started or Jordan Bell was starting in the Portland series, they were like, what is he doing? So Steve Kerr is willing to go deep into his bench because he trusts his bench. He's been using them all season long. So now here in the finals, you're not surprised when one of those guys have a good game.
How difficult is this to achieve? Forget what's ahead in terms of this series. Just reaching it 5 straight times. You just saw the graphic. Only the New York Islanders among the big 4 North American leagues have done this over the last 50 years or so. This is supposed to be hard getting to the NBA Finals.
Yes, it's supposed to be hard, and I think the Warriors have proven good luck with health. We talk about Steph Curry, he talked about earlier today, is that ankles, all the things he's been through his first 3 or 4 years, and now what he's gone the last 5 years, it's remarkable. Klay Thompson hadn't had a major injury. So with the blessing of no injury, staying together and willing to share, that's why I'm not surprised they're going for 5 in a row.
Yeah, Dennis, anytime you're compared to the 60s, or you're the first team to do something since the 1960 Celtics, you know you're doing something right. But really it speaks to their culture, it speaks to their character in their locker room, and it is hard. I mean, getting to the finals 5 years in a row. I mean, and they could very easily, if it wasn't for the heroics of a LeBron James a few years ago.
And the Draymond Green suspension.
I mean, it could be 4 championships in a row, going on 5 in a row. But you're right, to be able to stay healthy and to handle their success. You know, handling success is not an easy thing to do. To stay in character, to make sure you stick to who you are individually and collectively as a team, and they've done that. And that character, that substance is still there, and it's on display throughout these postseason. And, you know, they got a strong chance here to win 3 in a row.
And they swept their way through the Western Conference Finals without Kevin Durant, who, depending on who's doing the rankings, is probably 1 or 2 on the planet in terms of players right now. And you mentioned they've reverted back to a style similar to the one pre-KD. 20 more passes per game in these games since he went down. 2.5 more secondary assists.
Yeah, Matt, they've had to resort back to this. They don't have the luxury of Durant out there. And right now, this right here is not a set. This is just moving without the basketball, finding the open shooter in Klay Thompson. Once again, you play off of Looney. He's not a shooter. Well, they're so smart. Draymond Green waits for the read. Great screen. Steph Curry wide open. You can't give the best shooter in the history of the game that kind of open shot in the Western Conference Finals. And, of course, right here, a broken play, nothing there. They just kind of drive and pass and cut, moving the basketball. You have a short clock, 3D, under 10 seconds. They maintain their composure. They continue to dribble handoff, remain patient. They get the ball back into their playmakers' hands, and Steph Curry, moving without the basketball, finds the open shot. To try to defend that kind of movement right there, it's hard because you don't know what they're going to do. They don't know what they're going to do.
Right.
But they have principles and they have trust, as 3D talked about. They have a great culture. They're unselfish, and they take their time. They find the open man, and that's a hard team to defend, particularly when you have great shooting out there like they have on that ball club.
Yeah, I have to steal the phrase from Isaiah Thomas, our colleague, perfect randomness. That's what we just showed them because the team understands Klay and Steph are moving, running off screens. When the shot clock's at a certain number, we're still looking for Klay and Steph. We get around 10, we might look for our own shot. And if you make one mistake, that's when they get that backdoor layup or that backdoor dunk. Player movement, ball movement.
Also happens when you have really skilled players who know how to read and react and ad lib on the fly the way the Warriors are so good. Well, we mentioned Durant. He is one of the question marks of this series. Durant will not play in Game 1 because of the calf strain that's kept him out since Game 5 of the conference semifinals. And Steve Kerr said Wednesday he still hasn't done individual court work, which he has to do before he even practices, which he has to do before he even plays in this series. So doesn't look good anytime soon. DeMarcus Cousins, on the other hand, is questionable for Game 1. He hasn't played since Game 2 of the first round, but Wednesday he said he was in James Brown mode.
I feel good. My quad is coming along. It's healed for the most part. I'm still whipping things into shape. Building the muscle endurance needed to, play at a high level. So, but everything's coming along well for me.
Cuz hasn't played since mid-April. if he's medically cleared and active for Game 1, if you're Steve Kerr, how do you approach it in terms of minutes and role?
Man, I'm being very cautious. If it's minutes, maybe it's at the end of the quarter. You know, when the game is not very intense, I mean, think about it. But, Grant, you know this. Matt, if that injury was April the 14th, 15th,
yeah,
you haven't had any practice time, any game time, the one-on-one, before the game shooting. I'm not going to lie. It looks good to me. I'll cover the Western Conference Finals, Matt, and I'm watching for the game. I said, maybe Cuz is ready. And then when I sat back and I looked at how the game, and we were at the Western Conference Final, now you're going to the finals, game's up and down. How do you get back on the floor with no practice time to really test that leg? So I'm thinking that Steve Kerr and the medical staff would be more cautious than playing him in Game 1.
Yeah, I agree. You got to be cautious in this situation. As he said, if this injury was in January, February, you have time to sort of gradually bring him back into the fold, or just throw him out there and have time to sort of figure things out, one with the chemistry issue, but also his health. I think you maybe put him in there with the second unit, for a few minutes here and there, see how he moves, see how he reacts, take him out, and see how he feels at halftime. How does it feel when he comes back in the second half? Just be very, very cautious with this. If he's healthy, you want him to play and you want him to experience. This is why he came to this team, but you don't want to put him or insert him to the starting lineup. I think that's a little too drastic. It can mess things up a little bit chemistry-wise, and this team is rolling right now. So you worry about his health, and also you worry about how he fits into what they're doing and how they're playing. If he's healthy, I think he'll play some. It'll just be in spot minutes here and there.
Depending on Nick Nurse's thinking, his availability could also play a role in how much Marc Gasol plays in this series, because against smaller Warriors lineups, Gasol may not be a great matchup for the Toronto Raptors. Just one of the things we're waiting to find out when Game 1 begins here on Thursday. Coming up here, he's been arguably the best player of the postseason so far. You'll hear from Kawhi Leonard when we continue from Toronto.
NBA Finals 2019 Preview Show is presented by YouTube TV. Watch every NBA Finals game live with YouTube TV. Try it now.
Put it on me, we'll get better. We will get better here. We'll believe in this city, this country, this team here, and move forward. I put it on myself. The most difficult time for me is watching the playoffs. I think people in our position, it's just difficult to watch it, because you're helpless. You know what? Now I can smile. Now I can be nice to my wife. Now I can, it's now is the time, that I can work. Our front office can work. We can be, I think we can be, we can do our jobs now. So I'm always nice to my wife, by the way.
Masai Ujiri's hoping he can really smile big in a couple of weeks if all works out. But last summer, he was faced with a team that he felt had reached its ceiling and needed changes, and boy, did he ever make them. Traded away the franchise's best player, DeMar DeRozan, in a deal that brought back Kawhi Leonard, promoted Nick Nurse after firing the Coach of the Year, Dwayne Casey, re-signed Fred VanVleet as well. The big move, of course, Kawhi Leonard, who, as everyone knows, has free agency coming this summer. No guarantee he'll stick around. He was asked here on Wednesday what he learned after being immersed in the Six for a full season.
Now I'm here for 41 games during the regular season. You get to live in a city, see how, if guys or girls wearing hats, jerseys, how much support is really around the city. And, now in the playoffs, you get to see everybody outside the arena and seeing how, excited they are for the game and how much support is there too. So, it's been an exciting year. Just those, you pretty much, that's what pretty much changed for me, just being able to see it visually. And, like I said, I'm in and out during the regular season.
And obviously the Raptors love what they have seen from Kawhi Leonard this season, and particularly in the postseason. But going back to last July, were the moves Masai Ujiri made an imperative, or were they a gamble?
That's a good question. I think it's a bit of a gamble. I think Kawhi Leonard, no one's has ever questioned his talent and his ability. But he was coming off of a year where he was hurt. He was injured. There was a lot of uncertainty as to what was happening with that. And then he was going into his contract year. There's a lot of talk, a lot of rumors out there about him wanting his desire to be out in Los Angeles playing for one of those teams in that market. So it was a bit of a gamble, I'd say. Maybe a calculated risk might be a better term, but certainly there's a chance that it doesn't work out. There's a chance that he doesn't blend with this team. There's a chance he's not healthy. There's a chance he will leave. And all these things are happening, but I think it speaks to the belief in the culture that they've established here in Toronto, and feeling as though, look, we have a year under our belt to win him over, much like how Oklahoma City did with Paul George the year before. So, I do think, though, they had to do something. Cleveland obviously was changing. LeBron was leaving, going to the West Coast. You had some young teams emerging. Philadelphia, Boston all of a sudden came out of nowhere. No one really thought of Milwaukee at that point in time. So you had to do something to sort of stay relevant and strike while you still had this window of opportunity. And it certainly has paid off big time for the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah, to me, whether he stays this summer or not, the gamble has already paid off. They're here in the finals for the very first time. In terms of what he brings on both ends of the floor, again, you could argue he's been the best player of the postseason so far. How much of a chance does Kawhi Leonard's presence give the Raptors in this series?
It gives them a great chance because he gives you that belief. Grant, we talk about this a lot. When you get this deep into the playoffs, Matt, do you really believe that you can beat that team across the hall, so to speak? And I think with Kawhi Leonard, you finally have that. And the same question you asked, Grant, I think Masai Ujiri said, I have to make a move. It's imperative. Oh, I didn't know Kawhi Leonard was going to be available right at the very beginning when I knew I had to make a move. So, yes, it was a gamble to go after a guy who said he's not willing to sign with me right away, knowing he only played 9 games the year before. But I believe in his talent. I was able to have a conversation with him to say, hey, I'm willing to make this move. Let's get to know each other throughout this year, and let's see what happens. And to your point, Matt, they're in the finals. Regardless what happens now, you're able to go back to him and say, I believed in you. Can we believe in each other? Come on back.
And he is the linchpin to one of the elite defenses in the NBA, 5th in the regular season in terms of defensive efficiency. The starting lineup now includes 2 former defensive players of the year, with Gasol included. And we saw what they were able to do to disrupt the Milwaukee Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. How does all that apply to what's ahead here with Golden State?
Well, Nick Nurse right away, Grant, has to say, guys, we have to be disciplined, because it's a different juggernaut we're dealing with Giannis versus Steph and Clay and all the ball movement and player movement. So how do you stay focused? We know it's a copycat league from switching defensively, but watch here. You have to switch with a purpose like the Warriors do. So Marc Gasol, good activity there, being around the rim, blocking shots. So now you have 2 defensive player of the years on the floor. You have Danny Green, you have Van Fleet, you have Siakam. So you have all the bodies, Grant. But see, right here when we watch these plays, there's not a lot of activity because Milwaukee played a certain way. This can help. But if you're not disciplined with the Warriors and the way they move and the way they cut, now they're getting wide open threes. Now you're not getting defensive stops to get down in transition. But see what Marc Gasol is? Now you got to get back in the paint, big fella, because that's going to be different. Because when Steph gives the ball up, he's going to take off running. He's going to be running off multiple screens. I think it's maybe more of a Ibaka series more than Marc Gasol. Even if Cousins does play, I still think it's going to be a small ball type series.
We talked about how the Warriors just know how to play, right? That means passing and cutting and reading angles and all that sort of thing. Same thing comes into play on the defensive end for the Raptors against the Warriors in this series. It's one thing to have a scheme, to have philosophies, but there are times, particularly with the way Golden State plays, you just got to react and have good defensive players out there.
You said it best, Matt. And look, no one's questioning Toronto's effort defensively. Their effort is always going to be there on that side of the ball. But you're right. They got to be disciplined. As 3D said, they have to be smart. And these are things that you can't diagram. A lot of times you go against teams that have sets, and you can sort of diagram where you want to be defensively, how you want to defend, take away the first, the second option, make them explore that third and fourth option offensively. Here, there's no rhyme or reason to what Golden State does. So you really just have to sort of make extra effort plays. You have to be, head on a swivel. You have to be alert. You have to be disciplined. Stick to your principles. And you'll see something that's so unconventional and so against what you've seen thus far in the playoffs. Boston, Milwaukee, Orlando, all good young teams, but offensively very different than how Golden State plays. So this team is capable. They have the bodies. They have the players who sort of have a calling card defenders. But the thing is that they're going to have to really lock in for 24 seconds, transition defense, and be, just super alert and aware and disciplined on that side of the ball.
And Marc Gasol said it here on Wednesday that it's their defensive mindset that has impressed him more than maybe the players and the bodies on the floor and what they can do in terms of physically, just their attitude, sticking with it, staying with possessions. They're going to need a lot of that in this series. All right, more coming up here. On the other side, Steph Curry on returning to Toronto and what it'll take for the Dubs to three-peat. Can't argue with the results, but there have been fits and starts for Steph Curry in the last 4 finals. He comes into his 5th straight on a serious roll. For the first time in his playoff career, he's on a streak of 5 straight games with 30 or more points, all of those after Kevin Durant went down in the conference semifinals. On the eve of Game 1 of Finals number 5, he spoke with Jared Greenberg.
All right, Steph, here we go again. You're here. Warriors are here. Does it feel a little weird, though, that LeBron's not here?
That and that we're not in Cleveland, just in general. It's pretty weird for us. Obviously, 4 straight finals before this year, all playing against the Cavs, and everything's different this year, which is for us, I think, a good little energy boost in terms of new atmosphere, new opponent, starting on the road, start the series. So for us, we're really excited about it. Being in the finals it's what you play for. It's what you work so hard for all year, and to have the opportunity again to win a championship no matter where you play, we're going to take advantage of it.
Steph, we learned earlier today that DeMarcus Cousins is being listed as questionable for Game 1. When you guys added him over the summer, some viewed that as an embarrassment of riches. Being that this Toronto team is going to be the best defense that you've faced in your 5-year NBA Finals run, do you look at DeMarcus as more of a needed weapon rather than just being a luxury at this point?
I never think anybody on our team is a luxury. I know whoever we sign in the summers, that's who we roll with, and our perspective is we want to be as healthy as possible. So if DeMarcus can get there, can be available, he's obviously going to help us, and we're going to put him in the right position to be successful. Same with Kay. He's been playing amazing, these last 3 years that he's been with us. Than later, but in the meantime, knowing who's suiting up, we know what the challenge is, how well, and how great of a team Toronto is, and we got to come prepared.
Specifically speaking about the playoffs, is this the best basketball you have ever played in the postseason?
It's close to it. I mean, it's hard for me to really talk about that in terms of what I've done in the past. My confidence is always there, and there's something. It's always about what's next for me in terms of how I'm going to play in these finals and having the right perspective coming into this series. So I like where I'm at. I like the rhythm that I have, and I've played well in the playoffs before, and I want that to continue.
Steph, when KD goes down and it's unknown when he was going to be able to return, if at all, is there any sort of checklist of adjustments that you're going through in your head that you need to make sure that you take care of?
It's a collective adjustment because of how much production we're missing without KD. I mean, he's averaging 35 points during the playoffs up until that point, and so we've got to do it by committee. It takes all the rotation guys off the bench to come in, play with confidence, and use their minutes to help us be productive. But in terms of me, Clay, Draymond, and Andre, we understand we're gonna have the ball in our hands a lot more. And you just got to be aggressive and decisive with whatever you're doing out there on the floor. And then on the defensive end, that's just a 5-guy, commitment to, multiple efforts all over the floor, being physical, and just playing the full 48 minutes. So we have those same principles when KD's in, because that's what makes us a great team. But it's even more important because of, what we're missing when K's out.
Steph, I know you've heard all the noise about the lack of Finals MVP award. With that said, how do you balance ignoring and blocking all of that out with being a competitive human being who's got a desire to continue to add to your accolades and resume?
Well, yeah, I understand that's the conversation, and I like that conversation because it means I've been here plenty of times and we're still winning. So it's just a matter of, honestly, I know like that would be an amazing accomplishment and something that the way that I play and the energy that I give on the court and every playoff game that I've played, every finals that I've played, it's to win the basketball game, however you get that done. And for us to win championships, I know I have to be playing at a very high level. Whether that means a finals MVP or not, I'll let that kind of work itself out. But in terms of chasing rings and banners, that's the first and foremost. You can't cheat the game that way.
But it wouldn't be bad to put up there on the mantle.
Not at all.
Steph, the quote-unquote book on you is that in order to slow down Steph Curry, you've got to be physical with him. So if you had to guard you, would that be the strategy that you would take?
Most likely. Or I just put some popcorn in the corner and try to distract me or something like that.
Popcorn's the best way to do that?
That's about it. Maybe they should try that. But being physical, obviously, it's been the MO since I was in college. And at the end of the day, I know how to play, through whatever type of defense. It's just a matter of just being consistent and doing what I do.
Steph, best of luck. Enjoy Toronto.
Appreciate it, Jared. Thank you.
Folks here at Scotiabank Arena just ordered extra popcorn for game one because you know what? You do whatever you can, right?
That's
Anything
right.
that works.
That's right.
Jared asked Steph about the whole finals MVP question. He's got 3 championships. He still doesn't have a finals MVP, and there's a thought out there that this will matter to his legacy at some point. I personally don't really understand it or buy it, but where do you guys stand on this?
Talking to him and asking the same question, it's not. It's for everyone else thinking for him. As long as he continues to get to the finals.
Well, that's my question, though. Is it the outside perception will matter
outside.
to his legacy?
To him, coming out of Steph's mouth, he could go to 5 more finals and win and not get an MVP, and it will not bother him at all.
No, not him. I'm saying when you have that debate years from now about great all-time players, wherever you think he is that part of the argument one way or the other?
I agree with Dennis. It doesn't bother him, but I think it'll quiet all the critics. It'll quiet people who say, great player, but in the finals, just never really had although last year I thought he had a great finals, and it could have very well been an MVP, most outstanding player. Kevin Durant won that. But yeah, if he's able to get that, that's just one of the things now where the so-called critics in the barbershops, they can't use that argument against him. But I agree, that's the furthest thing from his mind. He just wants to win another championship with his ball club. But I think he has, this is as good as he's been, I think, going into a postseason that I can, going into a finals that I can recall. And with Durant out and with how they're playing right now, there's a good chance that if they were to win, he'd be that MVP.
To me, he's just been, the centerpiece of this whole Warriors thing over the years, and that seems like a relatively small piece of the total resume, which is just growing and growing and growing to ridiculous proportions. He's going to finish as an all-time great.
No question
about that. All right, more coming up here on our NBA Finals preview show presented by YouTube TV. After 13 years climbing the ladder, Kyle Lowry has reached the championship round. What getting to the finals means to the Raptors All-Star. Speaking of good players, Kyle Lowry just gets better and better the longer he's in the league. It took him 9 years to become an All-Star. Now 5 All-Star appearances in, he'll make his NBA Finals debut in his 13th season in the league.
For me, it's all about winning, and when you get to the point where you made it to the finals, you won, but you still got more to do. So getting here doesn't do anything but getting here. We still want to try to win this.
Did anything change for you, confidence-wise, or this year in the playoffs?
No, it's been the same. As long as we win games, I can not score at all. If we win, I don't care. As long as we win games.
Well, Lowry is the longest tenured Raptor on this roster, but because of the acquisition of Kawhi Leonard and the emergence of Pascal Siakam, his role has changed a little bit this season in that they don't necessarily need him to be a big scorer for this team. What will they need from him in this series?
They're going to need his aggressive spirit and his nature of playing the game the right way. And how has his game changed over the years? He doesn't have to score a lot of the points because now he's taking charges. He's always been a pit bull on the defensive end. So his impact on the game for me, Grant, is different because now he doesn't have to score the points like he did in the past with DeRozan. Now he can be a better leader and show all his toughness.
Yeah, no question. A little bit like a Draymond Green for Golden State. You know, he's the emotional leader. Kawhi Leonard, they get confidence, as Dennis talked about earlier in the show, from his presence. He's a quiet guy. Lowry's their leader. He's the guy that empowers his teammates, and he just makes plays. He's in the right spot. He gets a steal. He gets a turnover, a charge. A great assist for his team. He makes winning plays. And yeah, go out there and score some baskets from time to time. Get the assist and steals and all those other things. But just winning basketball, his spirit, I think his team will feed off of, and they need that from. And I like him at this point in his career in that role and not having that pressure to go out and get 25 points a game.
He has gone for 30 in the postseason, but smart and scrappy. That's kind of his brand at this point. And Steph Curry said on Wednesday, you just have to be aware of where he is on the floor because he is always in the mix. More coming up here. The hottest shooter on the planet, believe it or not, will not be wearing Warriors colors in Game 1. We'll check in with the Raptors' Fred VanVleet on the other side. Back in the 6, where Raptors fever has taken over Toronto, Ontario, as they get set to host the NBA Finals for the very first time. Temperatures here in the 50s on Wednesday, but you know what? Fred VanVleet can single-handedly make up for that. 14 of 17 from 3 over his last 3 games. Jared Greenberg caught up with him.
Well, Fred VanVleet, we promise this will be the lone interview you do all finals long that doesn't talk about your hectic schedule after the birth of your second child. But I am curious if this deep playoff run does have any added benefits of getting you out of diaper duty.
For sure. Unfortunately, I'd love to be there, spend every second of every day, but obviously we've got some business to take care of first, and then we'll be able to enjoy our summers all summer long. But I get to miss all those early ones that are not fun. So that's a little added bonus that people don't know about.
So your first child was born during the regular season. How much different was the experience with each child being born at a different time of the year?
Yeah, I mean, you don't know about kids until you have them. Like, there's nothing that people can tell you to prepare you, and you definitely don't know until you have more than one. So the second one kind of gets no love. You're just ready for, the birth and try to get through the whole pregnancy. So it was a different experience. And then obviously to have him born during the playoffs was just a surreal moment. And through the middle of everything that was going on, it was a great experience for me.
Fred, after you guys clinched a berth into the NBA Finals, it seemed as if you had the perfect video to capture the vibe of the city as you were attempting to get out of the arena Saturday night. For those watching back in the States who have no idea what it was like here and what it will be like this week, can you give us a description of what the city's going through right now?
Yeah, it's hard to put into words. I think you just have to see it for yourself, and if you're lucky enough to be up here to experience this time in this city, you can feel it, you can see it. And the rest you just try to have to catch on video, I guess, somewhere. But the other night was just we're inside, so we know about Jurassic Park, we know everything that's going on out there, but we weren't expecting the streets to be how they were, and that was a cool moment for us and the fans.
Did you just try and sneak a Instagram follow right there? Plug.
Shameless promo at all times. But yeah, check me out. I'll have some exclusive for you.
Fred, you were so good in the last couple of games of the series. No struggle, though. Before that, you struggled a lot from the field. Was there ever a point in time or a conversation that you had with a coach or anyone on your team where it kind of hit you like, man, I better start hitting some shots, otherwise my role could be drastically changed?
No, I think that's the good thing about me and my character and my demeanor is I try to never waver. I try to never change. I try to have the same approach and attitude, and obviously you're never the same person. Like, I shouldn't be as happy when I score 0 as when I score 20, but there's got to be a fine balance in between, and I think that the coaches and my teammates respect me enough to kind of leave me alone in that regard and just, keep giving small reassurances, knowing that it would turn around. And my role did change. It did diminish a little bit. And, as you play better, things grow, and as you play worse, they get smaller, and that's just the byproduct of being a role player, and you got to understand that.
Fred, you've had one of the better individual defensive games of the year guarding Steph Curry, and the common school of thought around the league is, well, the way you slow down Steph is you got to be physical with him. But how challenging is it to be physical with a guy who never stops moving?
Yeah, he doesn't give you many chances to lean on him and grab on him, and obviously with the officiating, with the freedom of movement, it makes it very tough to grab and hold him. But you just gotta keep applying pressure and keep trying to make it tough on him. And with any player, none of us like to be hounded, and we all like our space and would love to run around free, and I think that makes the game easier. So just trying to make it tougher on him, and I don't know if there's a way to shut down a guy like that, but you just got to try to make it as tough as possible.
I'm going to call you the Steph stopper?
No, I'm not looking for anything like that. I'm just trying to go out here and get some wins for our team, and hopefully you can call us NBA champions. I'd like that a whole hell of a lot more than being a Steph stopper. And I'm sure if you ask him, he'll probably say that game he just missed some shots. That's what I would say. So those type of guys, there's no defense for them.
Fred, congratulations with the on-court success. Congratulations with the off-court family success. Happy and healthy to you and your family. Best of luck in the finals.
All right, thank you.
Hey, why not Steph stopper and NBA champion? That could work.
I like that.
Coming up, signals from Houston that could radically change the Rockets around James Harden next season. The latest on the way.
In the next 2 weeks or so, if a Drake song comes up on a playlist or just plays, do you skip it or do you take it out of the playlist?
If it's a bad song, I'll skip it. But if it's one of his hits, I'll play it. I've been a Drake fan since, I was in high school. He's a great artist. Do I like him as a Raptor fan? No, but I like him as a musician. He's extremely talented. But I will definitely skip the song if I don't like it. And if it's one of his soft, R&B songs, I'm gonna skip it because I'm in kill mode right now. Trying to get these 4 games. So I'll skip Hotline Bling and anything along that line.
Sounds like Clay's musical selections are very situational,
That's
not
right.
only with the finals, but in terms of which songs he likes best. By the way, the league reportedly spoke to Drake about his behavior and what he can and can't do during the finals in terms of getting out to the floor and
I'm gonna get my massage
the
down
neck
for you,
rubs
Grant.
for Nick
Make sure
Nurse
you're straight,
and
Grant. All right, you good?
whatever
You
else
good
he
for
might have
tomorrow?
up his
You
sleeve.
good?
I know Nick Nurse is disappointed about that.
Yes, I'm sure. He said he didn't feel it, but when you're locked in, the mood right, like Clay shows us, you might want to get a little extra massage when the game gets tight.
Well, we'll be on the floor for Game 1. We're available for, if he wants to relieve tension during commercial
There you
breaks.
go.
We're there. He'll be there as well. That could work out, right?
That's right.
Drake, you're invited. Come on over.
Come on over. Come on down.
We'll be here for you.